Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Salam, dear listeners. Have you ever noticed a very simple person? Someone who seems not to have too much in this world? Someone like the worker at the mosque who's always wearing old clothes, or the shy girl at school who always brings a boring lunch. Maybe that boy you see who's always alone at the playground. Did you know that sometimes it's the simplest of people who reach the most special heights in the eyes of Allah? Today I'm going to tell you the story of one such person. He wasn't a doctor or an engineer. He wasn't rich or famous. He wasn't even a scholar or a leader. He was simply a load carrier for the shops in the bazaars of Isfahan, what we would call the delivery guy today. But he was pure of heart, and that made him extraordinary. The beautiful city of Isfahan had a big bustling bazaar full of wonderful shops selling all sorts of trinkets. The bazaar was full of shoppers from the crack of dawn till the sunset every evening. They didn't have cars back then, and the busy shoppers needed help delivering their purchases to their homes. That's where Halu came in. He was one of the delivery guys. Now his real name wasn't Halu, of course. Halu was his nickname, and it literally meant plain or simple. His real name was actually Mirza Hussain. The people called him Halu because they thought he was exactly that, a simpleton, someone unsophisticated, not a deep thinker or a scholar or anything important. But in the same city of Isfahan, there also lived a great scholar who was so learned that he became known amongst the people as Hujjatul Islam, although many people called him Sayyid. Everyone in Isfahan loved him very much. One special characteristic that Sayyid had was that he was very trustworthy. People would often give him their valuable possessions, and he would always make sure to keep them safe until it was time to return them. Sayyid had seen Halu around many times, and he had even noticed that people would make fun of him and laugh at him for being so plain. Sayyid felt bad for Halu, but it seemed that Halu wasn't bothered by what others thought of him at all. Now one day, Sayyid was getting ready to go on a journey with a group of people. They were going to go to Iraq first for ziyarah and then to Makkah and Medina for Hajj. When they were leaving, some people from the caravan came to him and said, "Sayyid, we trust you more than anyone in this world. We are traveling with some precious things. Can you please keep them safe for us?"
"Of course,"
Sayyid said,
"and I'm very pleased to be of your service. I have this box over here. It is locked and safe. You can take your things back from me whenever you like."
Eventually, the caravan reached the holy city of Najaf. After returning from the haram of our beloved Imam Ali alayhi salam, Sayyid decided to check on his safe box. What he found made his heart lurch in his chest. The lock was broken and the box was completely empty. Sayyid felt panic and despair closing in around his heart. How could have this happened? What would he tell all the people who had trusted him? How were they supposed to continue their journey without all their important things? Their documents, their money, everything seemed to be gone. He immediately stood up and rushed to Masjid al-Sahla. Do you know what makes this mosque so special, by the way? It's where our 12th holy Imam will live after his reappearance, and before that, it's a special place where people go to talk to Imam Mahdi and to do tawassul to him whenever they're in trouble or facing any difficulties. When Sayyid reached the famous Masjid al-Sahla, he began to speak to our living Imam.
"Oh, my beloved Imam, the people, they respect me and trust me. Not only am I worried about the possessions of all of these people, but my reputation is also on the line. Oh Imam, I ask you from the bottom of my heart, please help me. Please take away this difficulty from this lowly servant of yours."
He was still crying and beseeching the Imam when he suddenly noticed a young man riding up to him. The man stopped in front of him and said with a gentle voice,
"You look very upset, Sayyid. What's the matter?"
As soon as he heard the man speak, peace and awe filled Sayyid's heart. He knew straight away who this man was. After all, a lover recognizes the voice of his beloved.
My dear Imam,
He said with the utmost respect.
I don't need to tell you. You already know my difficulty. So please help me because I have nobody but you.
The Imam smiled at him.
"Don't worry.
He said.
It will be sorted."
The Imam then turned in the direction of Iran and called out,
"Halu, halu, halu."
Sayyid was shocked. What was happening here? Suddenly he saw Halu materialize in front of them out of nowhere. Halu greeted the Imam with utmost respect and love, and also with a hint of familiarity, as if such a meeting was nothing extraordinary for him. The Imam kindly returned his greeting and said,
"Halu, please sort out this man's problem."
The Imam then bid them both farewell and left. Sayyid was absolutely amazed by everything he had just witnessed. How did Halu get here? He should have been in Isfahan right now. He hadn't traveled to Iraq with them. And why had the Imam called this simple, ordinary man? Why had Halu greeted the Imam as if they were close companions? When he finally found his words again, Sayyid turned to Halu and said,
Are you our own Halu? The Halu? The one who carries loads in the bazaars of Isfahan?
Yes, replied Halu with a twinkle in his eyes. Sayyid shook his head in disbelief.
And did you just hear the Imam's call just now?
Halu nodded.
Then why did he call you 3 times?
Sayyid asked. I was in Isfahan when I heard his call the first time, and the second and the third time he called, I was already on my way here. Sayyid's eyes widened at these words. He realized Halu must have a great status indeed if he could travel such long distances in just a few moments. He lowered his head in reverence to this great man. Before he could ask him more questions though, Halu spoke up and said, Sayyid, you go home and don't worry. I will sort your problem for you. As Sayyid went home, his heart soared with uncontainable joy. He had met the Imam, he had seen him with his very own eyes, and he had gotten to know one of Imam's special companions, someone he would have never guessed would be so close to the Imam. He felt completely at peace. He knew his problem would be solved and that his life would never be the same after today. Sure enough, within a few hours, Halu came to him with some bags and said, Count all of this and tell me, is this the same amount that was taken from you? Sayyid checked the bags and just as he had expected, it was exactly the correct amount. Halu said, Alhamdulillah that I was able to do my Imam's bidding and help you. Sayyid felt incredible relief at getting back the possessions of the people, and he sincerely thanked Halu. You're welcome, my dear Sayyid, but before I go, I must ask you to promise me one thing.
Anything for you, my dear Halu,
Sayyid earnestly told his new friend. Please don't tell anyone about our encounter, said Halu. Let me continue to be the simple, naive Halu in the eyes of the people so long as I am alive. It was hard for Sayyid to keep such a precious secret, but he reluctantly accepted. Halu stood up to leave and said, Carry on with your journey. Go for Hajj and I will meet you on the day of Arafa. I will show you the tent of our Imam. Sayyid was impatient. He couldn't wait for the day of Arafah. When the blessed day finally arrived, Sayyid kept his gaze on the plains, his eyes searching for Halu like a thirsty man in search of water. Finally, the moment he had been waiting for arrived. Halu appeared by his tent and with calmness in his eyes took him by his hand. Come, Sayyid, he said, it is time. Sayyid followed him across the sandy plains, heart swelling in anticipation of meeting his Imam again. When they got near Mount Arafa, Halu pointed to a tent and said, "The Imam is just inside there." Sayyid was elated, but when he tried to move towards the tent, Halu held him back. "No, Sayyid," he said. "I only have permission to show you the tent, not to take you inside. Say your salams to the Imam from here." Sayyid could not control his tears. He was so happy that he was able to sit near the tent of the Imam of our time, but he was also immensely heartbroken that he could not go inside and see the Imam. He sat out there for hours next to his special friend Halu and emptied his heart to the Imam. When they finally stood up to leave, Halu once again reminded Sayyid of the promise that he had made to keep all of their encounters a secret. When Sayyid and his caravan returned to Isfahan, the people came from far and wide to welcome them home. Sayyid was busy speaking kindly with all his guests when he suddenly noticed Halu amongst the crowd. Sayyid's heart skipped a beat at seeing his special friend, and he tried to stand up to greet him in a special way, but Halu rushed to his side and firmly made him sit down again. "Don't stand up for me. Don't forget, you are the great scholar Hujjatul Islam, and I am just the simple Halu of the bazaar," he whispered into Sayyid's ear. From that day on, Sayyid and Halu became good friends. Sayyid would seek out Halu's company in secret so the people wouldn't come to know of his special status, and he gained great knowledge from this companion of the Imam. Sayyid kept this secret from the people until the day Halu passed away. At Halu's burial, Sayyid told the people of Isfahan about the reality of this apparently simple man. The man they had always called Halu because of how simple-minded they thought he was. But in reality, he was a hidden treasure, an amazing companion of the Imam, the one whom the Imam would give his special tasks to carry out. Let me ask you this. How do you think the people of Isfahan must have felt upon hearing the real status of Halu? Do you think they wished they were kinder to Halu? Do you think they wished they had seen through this simple demeanor of Halu and his plain clothes and looked beyond to understand who he truly was? How lucky Halu was to have such a close connection with the Imam Mahdi. If you and I try very hard to be like the way the Imam wants us to be, then we too can become just like Halu. Stay tuned for the next story in this series to learn about some of the characteristics the Imam loves in his special companions.
Baba, that